Okay, so welcome everybody to this symposia with the title Robotizing Care for Older People. What should be automized when robots enter home care? And this symposia aims to contribute to this discussion about digitalization of elderly care and care work. And as you know, robots are part of the digitalization that continues to automate work. And expectations are very high. But what is the next step? What are the most important questions? What do engineers need to know? And what can social science contribute with? This symposia include presentations by international scholars, Anna Spånt Enbuske from Kommunal, the Union Kommunal in Sweden, Moon Choi from Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, KAIST in Korea, Sanna Kuoppamäki from the Royal Institute of Technology, KTH in Sweden, Björn Fischer also from KTH in Sweden, and so am I, and I'm the symposia convener. And the presenters have about 7 to 8 minutes at their disposal. And after the presentations, there is time, 5 minutes or so, for us to put questions to each other. And maybe there will also be a discussion in the end, we will see. So please enjoy our contributions. Now I will stop sharing this picture and I will start to share my presentation. I will start making a presentation with the title, The European Potential for Robotic Use in Care for Older People. And this presentation is part of the European project INBOTS, Inclusive Robotics for a Better Society. And this European collaborative project is about promoting social uptake of robots. And when we say social uptake, we refer to robots outside industry. And when we talk about robots, they are defined as robots interacting closely with users. And we know that industry has used robots for a long time. But what about social uptake outside industry? And what about the care sector? We also know that other sectors such as logistics, rescue activities are expected to have a great potential for robotics. Even surgery and education and robots at public places, of course. So what I will do, I will present a study and overview of robot best practices in the health area in Europe that we did in this project. And we collected best practices of robots in the health area, of interactive robots. And these robots should be close to implementation or commercialization, and it was collected by the 25 stakeholders that's engaged in research and business. And the background is, as I already mentioned, that industry is leading, followed by other sectors. But what about the care sector? We know very little about this. We know a bit about the health area in general, especially surgery and other advanced robotics inside hospitals and for medical treatments. And there are very good statistics from Eurostat about the use of robotics in industry. And you can see here that 25% of large enterprises use robotics today. And also medium and small enterprises are using robots. But the statistics are very uneven, and there's no Eurostat statistics at all on social uptake and not on how it's used in the care sector. But one important aspect that there is a high general digital maturity in Europe today. And I assume that this can nurture robot development. And there's only about 14% of Europeans who have not access to internet today. So I think that the main question for us is that to discuss is what should be and what should not be automated in the future. Here is a quick picture just to show you the stakeholders that are involved in the project and who that was collecting these robot best practices. And these are universities and researchers, they are enterprises, and they are consultants and also authorities, like the German Authority for Standardization, for example. And the robotics that was collected was not only in their own sphere or their own production, but interactive robots in the field, and also these robots should be high up on the technology readiness scale that I will show you in a second. And it should also be outside the industry. So 24 best practices were collected, and to make an assessment, we developed two kinds of tools. First, we developed a tool to measure adoption maturity. And this is based on adoption theory and innovation theory. So we came up with 7 items, and each robotic applications were evaluated according to these items. Then we also used the technology readiness level scale. That is a very well-known scale that is very often used also in the European Union to measure how far products and systems are in the production, how near the market and the use they are. And we were looking for practices that was on the higher levels, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And we ended up with 24 best practices then. And as you can see, I have categorized them, and I have put the label of the categories in red. And here you have robot prosthesis, both for hands and for legs. And you have exoskeletons to support other bodily functions. You also have other robot applications to reduce stress and frailty, like the Somnomaten, who was supposed to help you to fall asleep. There's also these robot animals to reduce stress for old people. The giraffe robot, of course, but also these systems for emergency contacts within healthcare that are now digitized and robotized, like personal emergency response systems. And also more virtually adventurous robotics like bike around and robotics and e-craft to learn, which we also included, even though it's in the education area, because we think we define health very broadly here. It could be about wellness, and it could be about having a satisfying daily life. And then we evaluated each of these, and we turned them into spider diagrams, which is quite hard for you to see here. They're quite small, but what I would like you to see is that, so here, everyone, as I said, were evaluated according to these numbers. And you can see here that the upper here, they got very high numbers in all of these items. And some of them got very few and low, like the giraffe robot. So here, to make it easy to see, the blue ones are the ones with the highest numbers, and the orange ones are the ones with lowest. So you see that the robotics to support disabilities or bodily functions, or to replace bodily functions, have very high numbers. So there we are very advanced, while Somnomaten and the robotic to use in the elderly care and other robotics have lower numbers. And of course, some of them had high numbers in one respect, but not in the other. And here you can see, as we expected, they all have to be high up on the readiness scale, except for the Somnomaten then, who came quite low down. So what conclusions can we draw from this study? Well, robot applications and best practices in the health area in Europe are mainly focusing the body to habilitate or rehabilitate bodily functions. That's very clear. So what does this mean for the next step? Isn't it time to broaden the understanding of what people can use robots for? And does this mean, for example, that we still associate aging and health with physical and social loss? That the technology is very new, but our attitudes and images of these things are quite old, actually. Another thing that we could see when we looked at who is producing and designing these robots and who are using them, we could see that the care sector especially separates between male and female wear. And what does this mean for contextualization of robots? Does it prevent robots from being contextualized into caring practices and care workers to influence procurement and development of robots? Also very important, of course, the lack of statistics and overviews on social uptake of robots makes it very difficult to do priorities and to understand the situation and to make investments. So this is a need. We need to make Eurostat come up with this kind of statistics. So at the end, I would say that we are still at the crossroads of asking, what should be robotized, meaning what should be further automized and not automated. I think that we are at that crossroad still when it comes to health and care. So thank you very much for listening to this first presentation. Now I will stop share and I will invite Anna to share her presentation with us and to unmute her microphone. Please, Anna, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Britt, and welcome to my part of this seminar. The topic is digitalization and personal integrity at the workplace, since I work as a research officer at one of Sweden's largest trade unions, and mainly our members work within the healthcare sector. And then I wanted to, how do I change? Oh, there you are. These are, we have about this Kommunal, the Swedish Municipal Workers Union. We have about 500,000 members, and they work in about more than 200 different occupations within 13 fields like elderly and disability care, schools and daycare centers, health and medical care, parks, maintenance and road constructions and rescue service. And unfortunately, most were dressed in black in this picture. And how next? I'm going to give you a short presentation about the web survey we did about digital systems and surveillance technique. And
can you speak a little closer to the microphone?
Okay. I'm going to give you a presentation of a web survey we did. Digital systems and surveillance techniques in the workplace. And the purpose was to learn about the trade union safety representatives' involvement when employers introduce new digital systems and surveillance techniques in the workplaces and the effects on personal integrity. And the method was a survey to about 1,500 members, and we received a response rate of 57%. The survey was a little bit difficult to answer, so that's might be the reason, 57%. We have tried to communicate the results by reports, including the results in a report on welfare technologies, also an article in European Trade Union Institute's publication transfer, and you have a picture here of that one. Also in blogs and articles, and me participating in conferences and seminars. So what did it say? Actually, when the employers are about to introduce new kind of systems in the workplace, they are obliged by law to involve the trade union members and they have the working environment responsible. So this survey actually shows there is a lack of involvement in the decision-making process. So not all members were, so this picture, I thought this showed the numbers, but just about 18% of the representatives were actually involved in the decision-making process. The main part, 75%, were not, and about 7% actually didn't know what had happened. Next, another question was, do you know of any surveillance at the workplace in your safety area? And about this, I don't know what has happened with my pictures. This should actually show. Anyway, about 30% knew about different kind of surveillance techniques and GPS X tracking, entry and exit controls, camera surveillance were examples of that. About 47%. This is, excuse me, but this is not what I was supposed to say. Anyway, there was a great lack of knowledge of any surveillance technique and great lack of involvement in the workplace. But this involvement differs between different fields of activities. So rescue service, for example, they were much more aware of different kind of digital technologies, which were placed, because they were mostly physical. They could actually see them. They were cameras, for example. So new technologies, they experienced that 55% of the answers show that new technologies affected the personal integrity among the members working within rescue services. And about 61% knew about surveillance techniques. For example, cameras with on the firefighter trucks or ambulances and GPS tracking on those. Public transportation, 39% thought it actually affected the members' personal integrity. For example, also GPS tracking on the buses. And in some parts of Sweden, you can actually have an app. On your app, you can actually follow the bus route. How long will it take to get to my stop, for example? And they also knew, this was also physical surveillance technique. They knew about them. Then we came to elderly care. And this was the surveillance, new technologies would affect the members' personal integrity. The knowledge wasn't that high there, just 29%. And also the use of surveillance technique, where they were not as obvious, because obviously if you use your smartphone or you have the iPad, everything is collected there, but it's more covered up. So I think that's the reason why they said that only 39% use surveillance technique at the workplace, because they are not as obvious as in the male-dominated. Also, this is male and female-dominated fields of activities. And in what way was surveillance, has surveillance had a negative impact on the work environment? It's more a feeling. This is a word cloud. It describes a feeling of stress and being monitored. And it's more, when it comes with the elderly care, it's more or less the information communication techniques, and it's more about control and monitoring time and work. So monitoring time, feeling of stress, and those are the most common negative impacts on the work environment. So let's see what can the trade union actually do about it. And we have tried to come up with different strategies to strengthen the workers' personal integrity at the workplace. And we actually have a lot of laws and regulation already set. So it's how to learn to combine those laws and directives. For example, how to combine GDPR with the use of personal data with the Swedish already set Swedish Work Environment Act. This is a tradition on the Swedish labor market. This is common knowledge about between both how to and because about employers organization and the trade union, we know about this. And the act of co-determination at work. This has been set in the 1970s, and which also includes the workers' right to the reskilling and get updated information about how to use these techniques. And as the social partners, we also need to collaborate on this, to update our material and to join our forces. And I will show, next slide is a link to a presentation. And as a trade union, we need to update our strategies and guidelines, and to also inform and train the safety organization and train union representatives on the importance of including digitalization in the social dialogue. So this is, if you are looking at this later on, you can actually copy the link, hopefully, and look at a presentation about how to use how to organize, look at digital technologies at, as a kind of work environment strategy to improve your digital skills or the work environment in combination with digitalization. So that's me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Anna. This was really raising some provoking questions that we can come back to later. Thank you. Now I will give the floor to Sanna. Please, Sanna, share your presentation with us.
Yes, thank you, Britt. Can you see it? Yes. Okay, thank you. So my presentation here is about digital co-cooking. This is a concept that I have been developed together with my colleagues, computer scientists and engineers. The main objective of this study is to open a design space for digital kitchen technologies for older people. So I'm a social scientist by background, and I've been investigating how older people use digital technologies in various home environments and in media and communication. And in this project, I aim to extend this expertise to home environments. And I've been doing this kind of digital ethnography at older people's homes to understand what kind of things in their cooking and kitchen activities could be digitalized and what not. So that is the background of this presentation. And my work is part of this KTH Digital Futures project called Advanced Adaptive Intelligent Systems that is led by engineers and computer scientists that aim to develop this kind of human-centered artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques to assist older people at their homes to perform various kind of domestic tasks. So the idea is to develop smart speakers and adaptive intelligent systems such as kitchen assistants that can help older people to cope living in their own environment, to manage various domestic tasks, and particularly in the context of kitchen and cooking. So the kitchen and cooking is the kind of very practical approach to this robotization of domestic sphere. And the main rationale for this is that this current assistive technology for older people is nowadays limited mostly to physical, cognitive, and social and emotional assistance. If we think about these robots that Britt were talking about, these paro robots, for instance, or this kind of robotic hands that can help older people to perform various kind of tasks, they still lack this kind of collaborative assistance provided to older people. So many of these robotic devices, they either focus on physical tasks, like robotic hands, or then they focus on social emotional assistance, like the paro robot. But that kind of technology that combines all these aspects or works in collaboration with people, that is still very sparse. And particularly in the context of domestic sphere, we can see that we know from the research that domestic context is very sensitive in that sense, that is the context where majority of these robot-human interaction failures occur. So it's very difficult to adopt robots in the domestic context. So that's why we need this project that combines both cognitive assistance and physical assistance in collaboration with older adults themselves to improve the well-being and health among older people. And we have now developed this idea about this digital cooking, where we aim to open this kind of design space for these digital kitchen technologies to assist older people in their home and support their aging in place. And my approach for this digital cooking is the social practice approach that it's derived from social sciences, but it states that cooking can be considered as a meaningful activity of doings and sayings. It consists of materials like food, tools, human body, then the skills like capabilities of cutting vegetables and knowledge of baking techniques, and also meanings, so like what kind of rationals people have when they engage with ideals of healthy eating. And these practices kind of serve as a foundation to create new design innovation. So we need to understand the social practices that people have in their kitchen and in their everyday life to be able to create that kind of robot that fits the user needs and user kind of behaviors. So that's why these practices are analyzed in very detailed to understand the user and to also increase the knowledge about the user behaviors that should be like the basis for this design process. And this kind of approach has also been applied in the context of behavioral change. So when we aim to understand how can older people make more sustainable or healthy consumer choices, how can they keep living in their own home as long as possible. So that's why we need to take a really deep insight into older people's home and their home environment. And this kitchen and food context has only recently become very popular in the field of AGI. And traditionally, the research shows that kitchen technology has focused on correcting problematic areas in the cooking experience. So when people are performing cooking activities, kitchen technology comes and corrects those problems in cooking. But nowadays there has become that kind of shift towards understanding the socio-technical practices of this cooking experience. So when we talk about cooking and kitchen, we should understand it like more broadly to see it like a socio-technical practice that also has this kind of social meaning to people. So cooking could be considered as this kind of practice that brings people together. It enhances solidarity. For older people, it can support this kind of intergenerational family communication. So cooking is much more than preparing a meal. It's also like enhancing the solidarity between family members. And in the field of AGI, this approach has only recently become like very popular way of understanding the cooking and kitchen life. And then the food practices, they can consider various kind of practical tasks like meal preparation, shopping, purchasing food, engaging with ideals of healthy eating, exchanging, soaring, and having fun with others. So cooking is also always a very social activity, socio-technical practice. And in this context, there has been studies that develop this idea about these cooking personas. So these cooking habits, behaviors, and technology uses in the kitchen are also influenced by age and life stage. So when people have very different kind of behaviors when they prepare a meal in their kitchen, depending on their skill level and their life stage and their technology usage. So that could be seen as a life stage-based issue as well. And in this project, we have developed this idea of kitchen as a social, practical, technological space. This ethnographic observation we have conducted in older people's homes. I collected 6 videos about older people's cooking activities at their homes, and these participants were asked to prepare a meal in their kitchens. So I have 6 videos consisting of older people cooking at their homes, preparing various kind of meals. And then the results. In the results, we can see that this cooking is a physical and embodied practice. So these participants, they displayed very diversity of cooking skills with respect to operating with tools and the speed of performing different kind of cooking tasks. Most of these tasks were performed with like very fluently and very fluency, but there are some kind of challenges in opening the packages, using knives, lifting tools, and searching for items in the kitchen cabinets. And these kind of physical and embodied practices can actually interrupt the cooking process. And to cope with these practices, to cope with these problems, these participants were using coping strategies to manage these difficulties, like using unusual tools or body parts in the cooking. And this raises the question, how can technology help solving these physical or embodied practices in the cooking? But then what is also important is to highlight the social and emotional practices in the cooking. The cooking situation itself is influenced by various forms of personal meanings towards kitchen objects. Like these participants, they were cooking together. There were family members who were providing assistance in the cooking process. When participants cooked together, they were like switching turns and sharing the kitchen space. And many times these participants showed very much attachment to these kind of kitchen objects, despite their lack of usability. And this shows that when kitchen technologies are adopted in the kitchen space, it's much more than just usability issue. It's also like personal meaning for these older people who are very attached to their home environments, or who the home actually represents also an identity and this kind of emotional space. So that's why these kitchen robots need to provide emotional attachment to older people to really get adopted. And cognitive practices of cooking, the cooking is a situation that requires cognitive fluency between switching tasks and performing tasks synchronously. And participants also showed a lot of variance in this, to what extent they were able to manage the cooking process. And this actually shows that when people are cooking, it involves performing various tasks at the same time. So that kind of technology that can help older adults to manage the cooking process and the kind of processing of these tasks simultaneously would be very helpful for older people. And what can be drawn from these insights in the terms of technology design is that when we are developing kitchen technologies, we can see that that kind of robotics and automatization that provides both physical, socio-emotional, and cognitive assistance is needed, so that the cooking experience is really enhanced among older people. In terms of physical assistance, we can say that that kind of technology that improves the fluency of the cooking process is important, rather than just performance of single tasks. So for example, technological assistant that in choosing and finding the right tool at the right moment. But then this kind of social and emotional assistance means that this kind of collaborative technology supporting the sharing of the cooking experience and collaborative cooking at a distance. So all people want to engage their family members through a distance to share this kind of co-cooking situations. And cognitive assistant could mean this kind of supporting of swapping tasks, using timers, finding ingredients, and remember recipes. And that should be integrated to the physical assistance. So as a result, we are proposing this kind of digital co-cooking concept to describe that kitchen technology should move beyond providing assistance in this kind of simple physical tasks to more collaborative, social and emotional tasks and assistance in technology design. Thank you. That was all.
Thank you very much, Sanna. Here we also got to widen our perspective on things. Thank you very much. I hope we can come back to this in the end. Now, Sanna will stop sharing and we will let Björn in. Please, Björn, you have to unmute yourself and you have to share your presentation with us. Please.
Thank you, Britt. Can you see it?
Very good.
Great. So let's see if that works. I'm going to talk about my research on older users shaping gerontechnology and design, which basically addresses the question, how can older users make an impact in design procedures or technologies in which they are involved? And the background of this research is the question, like, how older people can be involved in design. And there is a lot of increasing popularity of involving older people in design processes for technologies. The rationale for that is that involving older people in some way will help to gather needs or match technologies more to the needs of older people and make technologies more suitable for the expectations older people have. And that is a very relevant approach because older people come with a lot of expertise on their own life experiences and everyday life. And that is possibly knowledge that designers very well want to understand. But involvement is a very broad term. It can mean many different methods and approaches to involve older people. Like user-centered design focuses on capturing the needs of older people. Prototyping helps to gain feedback from older people on prototypes. Participatory design tries to consult older people in the procedure. So approaches to...
I think you have to try to remain in one position when you talk. Otherwise,
okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm trying to reduce my gestures. So approaches to user involvement with older people are diverse, and they can also be very differently executed in practice. So Einstein's ladder of citizen participation is an example here. Transferring it to older people, it means that there are different degrees to which older people can make an impact in the procedure. They can be consultants, they can be informants, they can be testers. And there are also differences in practice of involving older people with regards to the purpose of the endeavor. Do designers want to learn, or do they want to adjust design? So the impact older people can make during the design procedure often has a lot to do with the type of design choices designers make. And that's the background for which we want to understand how older people then can be involved to make an impact during the design process. And to understand more the role older people can play, our research team built design workshops that involved older people openly, meaning where older people were given a space to elaborate on their own views a bit, to explore what was mattering to them, and to express what role they expect technologies to play themselves. And we have here two pictures from one of those workshops with older engineers, in fact. And I then observed these practices of involvement and the outcomes of like involving older people in these different workshops. So the preliminary results are that, for me, that the design workshops that involve older adults openly help to discover knowledge that is very relevant to designers, and at the same time something that we believe, or I believe, older adults particularly possess, which is knowledge related to their own life experiences on the one hand, with a lot of experiences with previous technology. They very well can articulate in such design workshops what technologies they find meaningful. For example, it surfaced several times that telephones were considered more relevant to older people than robots and smart home devices. There were often suggestions to link new devices that were discussed in the workshop, specifically with smartphones, and even to include features that smartphones exhibit into these new devices, like having video calls. That's not to say that everything has to be now about telephones and smartphones, but the point is more that such ideas matter for the design of technologies for older people, and they can be learned through involving older people in a certain way. Another example is the knowledge older people have about their everyday life. In the workshops, we learned a lot about the struggles with existing smartphones in terms of letter size, privacy concerns, applications running in the background, autocorrect, irritating. Older adults also made suggestions to combine smart home assistants with the ability to order laundry support. So that is also a very everyday related concern, that they need somebody to help maybe a bit with the laundry. And that would then be included with a button into a smart home assistant. And again, it's that not to say that everything of that now has to be the main focus of design, but it is just to say these ideas, they can be very relevant for designers to learn more about the circumstances of everyday life for older people and their lifelong experiences. And on a broader level, practically, that means that the insights that older people can offer are pretty valuable resources that can inspire new technologies for older adults. And not involving older people in an open fashion will possibly risk to ignore these insights, because then older people would be involved for feedback purposes or for whatever the purpose is. But there's also a benefit of involving older people openly then to discover such knowledge. Theoretically, it also confirms that there is a difference in how outcomes come out of involving people as compared to other practices of how older people are involved. So in open fashion, there is a different outcome than it is in a prototype testing. And that's I like to highlight the benefits of this open fashion to empower older people and to learn from what matters to them. And with open fashion, that means specifically that designers remain focused on understanding the point of view of the participants, and to not steer away from these topics so much, even if the suggestions made by older people, they seem like unusual or unexpected or like out of the blue. It's something that can, precisely because of these unexpected conclusions, be an inspiration for innovation. And for me, the future research that I find very interesting is how exactly then can older people be involved for the different purposes. And that means for me, I want to understand better how the practices of user involvement and design play out in practice. So that's the current state that I'm very interested about. So that's my interest and my research. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Björn. Another presentation that uncover important things that we need to know. Thank you. Please, Moon, the floor is yours. Can I ask you, Moon, how do you pronounce your second name?
Choi, Moon Choi.
Oi, Moon Che?
Moon Choi.
Che. Good. Okay. Please share your presentation with us.
Sure. Hold a second. Okay, thank you, Bri, for a great introduction, and also thank you for including me in this wonderful symposium. I'm so excited to give a presentation about a paper that I have worked on for 3 years. I have not finished yet, so my goal is to finish this paper by the end of the year. So the title of this presentation is Asian and European Initiatives to Develop Robots for Elder Care. So it's about, many states and countries tried to find solutions, filling the gap between the supplies and demands of elder care. And I would like to approach it very critically. And by the way, I'm Moon Choi, and I'm Associate Professor at KAIST Graduate School of Science and Technology Policy. And this work has been supported by the National Research Foundation and also KAIST. And at KAIST, I have a lab. It's called the Aging and Technology Policy Lab. So we are doing several research projects. And I feel one of the previous speakers mentioned, I think Sanna mentioned AI, and we also have a project about AI fairness. So our research focuses on AI and ageism and AI and sexism. And also we have another project we just started about, finding some solutions for the COVID-19, because most of victims of COVID-19 in South Korea are older people. So we are trying to find some design model to help them to stay their home, etc. So today's presentation is about the care robots. So it's not surprising that there's a care gap because of the, very the speedy aging population. And one of my favorite papers that I have read recently is Ledford and Freiberg, and they estimate the gap between supply and demand of elder care based on the age of the population. This is based on the US. And so the authors think that most of caregivers aged between 45 and 64, they think they are the potential number of caregivers. And then most of care receivers are those over 80. So they estimate how the supply and demand would be changed over the year. And they found that the percentage that dramatically decreased. And then there's a 2030 problem. So 10 years later, there's a huge gap. But and I feel it's very interesting because this is a study based on the US, but also we in South Korea, we have a very similar problem because baby boomers started turning 65 this year, and then they will be turning 75 mid-old in 10 years later. So how we can, find solutions to filling the, gap, and it really calls for innovation, both in formal and informal caregiving. So in several Asian countries, there's a 1 or 2 child policies in like 1980s and 1970s, and it caused now lots of problems. So imagine, I have a brother, so we are 2, and we have both parents. But maybe the next generation, just one child, one couple might have to take care of both parents. And that's not easy, So we have to find some innovative way, even in home and, the care facility and etc. So there are many different approaches, and I feel around the world there's no one single innovative way to find solution, but we have a strong belief in technology. And there are many new ideas about developing assistive technology to reduce the burden of caregivers and also, even replace caregivers with robots. And I guess most of you probably have watched this film, the film Robert and Frank. It's about 8 years ago. And in this film, and the main character has Alzheimer's disease, so he forgot whether he's married and he live alone. And he has lots of memory issues and it's harder to maintain his own life. And family approached this using the technology. So they gave him a humanoid care robot. And this care robot help him to maintain his life and even give emotional support. It's like a human being. And that's how the government and private institute want to sell, we have this solution and we have to invest more money to provide the caregiving. And also there are many news articles about humanoid robots, and most of pictures show that all the person love the care robot. And also it's very interesting. I feel the look of a care robot is like astronaut, going to the moon and the helmets and body and looks like a human. And Pepper is most well known, the humanoid type of robot. But in fact, I feel it's so hard to see any single case that this robot can really replace human caregivers. But still, there are many initiatives to develop high-tech assistive technology for elder care and under the strategy for the innovation. So one of the leading countries investing a lot of money in this field is Japan. So they invested since 1913 and robot device for nursing care, but their aim is not to develop a humanoid. It's more about assistive technology, like bathing robot or transfer robot. So they put the 8 priority areas and I summarized it here. And they tried hard, but it was not very popular in most of the nursing homes, because the device is too huge or harder to maintain and it costs a lot. So in technology, we call it orphan technology. That means it's abandoned. It's developed but never maintained. And European Union, as the Britt mentioned, that there are many initiatives, robotics for aging well, but European model is more, how would I say, more imagination kind of, it's more humanoid approach, not just assistive technology. So there's many investment, especially the AAL program and also part of Horizon 2020. So there's, 85 million euro and also many SMEs, small, medium enterprise involved with this. And also Korea just started actually last year. So many of my colleagues, involved in this process. But this model is more similar to Japan than EU. So Korean government does not aim to develop a humanoid. It's more about the assisting ADL, the bathing and feeding and toileting, etc. But after observing these initiatives, I have developed a very critical point of view, because most of these initiatives, from the top-down process, and most of the voice from the developers, policymakers, because this sounds fancy and it's a very selling point in political process. But I think it's very important for gerontologists, also health professionals working with older people, to speak about what care means and what should be, you know, done by human caregiver and what should be done by, you know, robots. So my point of view is that these initiatives have been widely publicized. You know, the government are going to end the gap between demand and supply of caregiving. It sounds very easy and quick solution as sort of the technology determinism. Like if we develop and insert technology, all the social problems would be solved. But I feel the reality is that, and especially in South Korea, you know, the welfare state is not mature yet. So very few older people can access and afford these technologies. And so I would like to emphasize that these initiatives would largely impact the way how older adults are cared, and also frame our perspectives on the value of care, what care really means, and the value of interdependence and the value of life. I understand that independence is important too, but I also think that for social solidarity, interdependence is also important too. So we need the technology, but I think that technology should not replace with the human care givers. And that's my point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Moon. That was really interesting. I have to say that I recognize what you're saying. It's just that now you have proof, which is very important. I think we have about 5 minutes left, and I think that we should spend that time. If you would like to comment on each other or raise a question, please do that. Anyone?
I have a question.
Please.
Or a comment, more like. Out of my point of view, it seems that the top-down approach isn't really working that well. So how can we change that direction? So improve from the workplace or the homes or the user's perspective. How can we change the perspective of the development of assistive technologies, or either it's on the workplace or in the home?
Yeah, who would like to answer or comment on that? Sanna, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, so the question was like how to change approach from top down to more like user friendly. Is that, did I understood it correctly?
Yeah, from top down to bottom up a little more, right?
Yeah, so, yeah, I think that question actually includes like more broadly the question of what is the meaning of the user actually in the design process. Now when I've been collaborating with these engineers, I kind of always get the impression that they think it's so product based. Their thinking is based on the product and development of the product, and they are not much concerned about how that product is getting adopted. So I think that's the main question we need to raise when we want to increase the user involvement and the meaning of the user in the design process, is that we actually need to say that by understanding the users, these products get better adopted and they get really used by the user. So they are not just developing products and they end up somewhere, but if we take consideration the users, involve the users and understand the users, they really get adopted in their homes and working spaces and environments. But I think that kind of thinking is still lacking in the field of HEI among engineers and computer scientists who kind of think product based about these developments.
I think that also answers the question for the symposia, Sanna, that what do engineers need to know? But also, yeah, what do social scientists need to know?
Yeah, I think my experience is that we actually tackle pretty similar questions, but our approach is different, because social scientists begin from the user studies and understanding the users and context of use, whether it's working life, whether it's care, whether it's home. Then the engineers come and they design the product. then what comes after that? So after that can also, in that process, can be the social scientists who show that, okay, this is how you can get your product adopted in the market.
Mm.
If we consider that kind of product as a process, social scientists can work in the first stage of the process and then also in the latter phase, where these products are really like implemented in various contexts.
Yeah. Do you want to comment on that, Moon? Something?
Yes, and I also want to comment about Britt's question. So what social scientists needed to know and what engineers needed to know. I have thought about that question a lot, and I feel engineers needed to know the diversity in the aging population. So I feel engineers are not much exposed to the social science and also gerontology. So they simply, think that stereotype the older person based on their daily experience, mostly their grandparents or their neighbors, but actually all the population are very diverse. So diversity is an important issue. And about the social scientists need to have some basic knowledge about the status of technology. So what can be developed and what cannot be developed at this current stage. It's more like common sense. So for example, in the machine learning or artificial intelligence does not work very well the graph. It's very good at image and sounds, but so bad at graph, something like that. So that is an example. That way, I think the social scientists and engineers can cooperate better way.
Do you want to say something, Björn? So you have 30 seconds to say something if you want to.
Okay, I quickly say that I agree with what the previous people have said, everybody, but I also like the question that you raised specifically about what the social scientists have to know about engineers and technology. And that's, I think, where I want to also improve that understanding based on what we know now, the practices of involvement, how it happens in practice. I think that's also something we as social scientists, or I at least, don't know so much about, how it feels like and how it is to be an engineer and work on such aspects. And I think that's also equally important so that we can match our insights about users with the life roads of engineers. And I hope it was 30 seconds.
Yes. Okay, so for you audience, I hope you have enjoyed our presentations and that you are now got new energy to discuss these important matters. And as you can see here, we very much like you to contact us if you want to talk more or discuss, or you can see here our emails and also websites. So thank you very much, everybody, for very valuable presentations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.